enlargement occurs as the current moves from not from above downward, it's from side to side. So the width of the P wave increases in the lead tube. So when its widths become more than 2.5 small scale, we call it P mitral. Next, here is the P mitral. You see, the first part in this lead tube is from the right atrium, and the second part is left atrium. In normal cases, these both superimpose on each other. But when the P mitral, it increases its width, so it becomes separate from the right atrial P wave, so we call it P mitral. Here you can also see this M pattern, or it is more than 2.5 small scale. Next. So P wave can come from non-sinus region in the atrium. It may come from the left atrium, it may come from the junction lower part. So in that case, the shape of the P wave is different from the sinus P wave. So if you see in lead tube, P wave is inverted, it means it is not coming from above downward. It means it is coming from below upward. So in that case, the P wave is inverted. So this is non-sinus P wave. So one thing which is important to tell here is whenever you want to see P mitral or P pulmonale, it comes from sinus node. So if it is coming from somewhere else in the atrium, you won't comment it as P mitral or P pulmonale. Next. So here the P wave is inverted, so it is coming from the junction. At times it coming from the lower junction, and in that case QRS comes early than the P wave, so P wave may come after the QRS complex. Next, these are the normal and abnormal shapes of the P wave. As we have discussed, normal P wave, it's having 2.5 small scale large, 2.5 small scale wide, and in V1 it has bifid type. First part shows the right atrial part, and second part shows left atrium. So why it is bifid in V1? Because V1 watches the heart from the front. So right atrium, the excitation occurs from in frontward, while the left atrium is placed on the back part of the heart. So when the left atrial excitation occurs, current goes away from the center of the chest. So in this case, the P wave becomes inverted in the V1. So what happened in right atrial enlargement? First part becomes more than 2.5 small scales, while in case of left atrial enlargement, it becomes more wide. In case of both atrial enlargement, you can see combination of these two. Find that it's more heighted and more width in the P waves. So what is multifocal atrial ectopics? Just to tell you about the shape of the P waves. In this case, because this is non-sinus P wave, so you may say different shapes of the P wave in this lead. But in this case, you won't comment as right atrial enlargement or left atrial enlargement, because they are not coming from sinus source. Next is the PR interval. PR interval is from the start of the P wave to the start of the QRS complex. It includes atrial depolarization and AV nodal delay. So normal PR interval is 3 to 5 small scale. Fine. So in which the changes occurs only in the PR segment. The shape of the P wave remains the same. Next. PR interval can be shortened or prolonged. Next. PR interval, we call it short PR interval when it is less than 3 small scales. It can occur in WPW syndrome, LGL syndrome, and PR interval can also be shortened when the P wave is coming very near from the AV node. In this case, junctional rhythm or atrial ectopic rhythm, which is coming very near from the AV node, in this case, PR interval also short. Next. And normal variant in the young patients, at times the PR interval is very short due to the sympathetic overactivity on the AV node. Here you see this is the short PR interval. P wave is of the normal shape while the PR segment is shortened. So this occurs in WPW. When we call WPW, there is slurring and delta wave in the ECG. Next, this is LGL syndrome, in which you see the PR is short. Here you can see the PR is very short, but there is no delta wave. So when the PR is short and there is no delta wave, it may be in LGL syndrome, but most of the time it can occur in normal young adult. But if the PR is short in a patient of more than 40 years age, it will not be due to the oversympathetic activity. Most of the time it is due to some pathology. But you can see short PR interval at the age of 15, 18 or 20 years. You most of the time see ECGs in the emergency where the PR interval is short, otherwise patient has got no tachycardia. So it may be the normal value. So here you see the junction rhythm with very short PR interval. So don't call it LGL syndrome or Lichen syndrome. The short PR is because the P wave is origin of the P wave is very near from the AV nodes. That's why the PR interval is short. The second thing which can occur with PR interval is prolongation of PR interval. This occurs due to the abnormally long delay in AV node. So normal PR interval is 3 to 5 small square. So when it is more than 5 small square, we call it PR prolongation or the first degree AV block. When we call first degree AV block, when PR interval is prolonged at resting heart rate or the heart rate within the physiological limits. So if a patient has got PR prolongation at the rate of 150 or 170, this may not be due to the first degree heart block. This may be due to the when very fast impulse come to AV node. It's a natural its behavior to delay that impulse so that the LV filling occurs normally. So when we call first degree heart block, the heart rate must be within the normal physiological range, which is 60 to 100 beats per minute. So when there is tachycardia and PR prolonged, we can't say it first degree heart block. We say it just PR prolongation, which might be due to response of tachycardia. So next, PR prolongation also occurs in Mobitz type 1 AV block, but in this case there is progressive prolongation of PR interval and there is a beat drop. We'll learn in detail in the section of AV blocks. So next after P wave and PR interval comes the QRS complex. QRS complex shows ventricular depolarization. So in this case there is Q wave, R wave, S wave. First downward deflection is called Q wave. So at times it is called that there should be shoulder down. So when you say the PR interval and there is shoulder down, you call it Q wave. If there is small minute deflection, upward deflection, you can't say Q wave. But in actually, if the upward deflection is more than half small scale, then you call it R wave, otherwise you call it Q wave. So half small scale deflection, which is very minute, doesn't call it, this is not a Q wave. So in case of Q wave, if there is minute deflection upward, you still call it Q wave. R wave, first upward deflection is R wave. If the second R wave deflection, second positive deflection after S wave, we call it R prime. Normal duration is from 0.06 to 0.12 seconds or 3 small scales. Next. So this is the nomenclature of QRS. If it is small, we write small q, and if the S is small, we write small s. There is no strict definition when we call small or when we call large, but if it is more than 2 small scales, we may call it a large Q wave. Next. Are the QRS complexes normal? So what we see in the QRS complex? First, voltage, then duration, then important thing in QRS complex is pathological Q waves and QRS axis. We have discussed QRS axis previously. Next. So what is the voltage criteria of QRS? When we call low voltage and when we call high voltage. First thing is important, your ECG should be at the standard calibration, which is 10 millimeter per millivolt. Fine. So if the voltage of entire QRS complex in all the limb leads is less than 5 or 1 large square, or voltage of entire QRS complex in all the chest leads less than 10 or 2 large square, either criteria may be met to qualify as low voltage. So if you want to say the low voltage, it means all limb leads should be less than 5, or all chest leads should be less than 10, or both, or either. You may diagnose it as a low voltage. Next. So here the ECG, and when you calculate the whole voltage, it should be from the peak of R to nadir of S. So it shouldn't be the from the start of this to this. It should be the whole QRS. It should be less than 5. So here in all the leads, if it is less than 5, it is low voltage. So after it is written that the pericardial effusion, when we drain the pericardial effusion, it becomes large, because from here to here it is more than 5. Next is the high voltage. So high voltage occurs when there is increase in the LV mass, or maybe at times in cases of the LV dilatation. So conditions that increases the lower pressure or volume on the either left or right ventricle cause a compensatory increase in the ventricle muscle. This increase is muscle mass is seen on the surface electrocardiogram as an increase in the QRS voltage. Next. So this is the diagnostic criteria. You all know about it. There are the certain criteria on which we diagnose. This is LVH or RVH. The simple one is this Sokolov-Lyon criteria, in which if it is more than S wave in V1 and R wave in V5 or 6 more than 35. So you can memorize these criteria for your exam purpose. So next simple one is this 31. So here what you see, this ECG. This is markedly enlarged QRS complexes, and here the QRS you account 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and these are also more than that. So this is LVH. Next. So what is this? This is again LVH. So you can apply at time one criteria or the other. So you must know 2-3 criteria of the LVH, and you can apply all of them. When there is hypertrophy, most of the time there is strain pattern, which is downsloping ST and T wave inversions in the leads where the LVH, which shows LVH. Next. So right ventricle hypertrophy, the same as the load increases on the left ventricle, it causes LVH. When the pressure increases in the right ventricle, which may be in pulmonary hypertension or pulmonary stenosis, so there becomes the right ventricle hypertrophy. So there are also different criteria. You can just remember one or two. The simple one is when R is more than S in V1, it is right ventricle hypertrophy, or the R wave in V1 more than 7. And along with that there is right axis deviation, because when there is right ventricle hypertrophy, the mean axis shifts from left to right. Next. So what you can see in this, what is the axis?
Right axis.
Right axis, and R wave in V1 is more than 7. So this is
Right axis.
right ventricular hypertrophy. Next. Causes of tall R wave in V1. Not every R wave in V1 is due to right ventricular hypertrophy. So there are the certain causes, which is right ventricular hypertrophy, first one, then posterior infarction, muscular dystrophy. Some muscular dystrophies you may say R wave, WPW syndrome, and right bundle branch block. So whenever you see the R wave in V1, before calling it RVH, exclude the other causes. So what you can see here, this is R wave in V1. more than 7. Axis is, you can say this is right axis, but this is not RBH. This is because there is short PR interval and slurring of delta wave, so this is the W time. So one thing which is at time, most of the time we use the terms which is the poor progression of R wave. So what actually the poor progression of R wave is? It is defined as the loss of or no R wave in lead V1 to V3 or less than 2 millimeter. So it may be normal variant. LVH, in cases of LVH, you may say poor progression of R wave. In case of left bundle branch block, you can see left anterior fascicular block, anterior anteroseptal MI, emphysema, and diffuse infiltrative process. So it means all the poor progression of R waves are not due to anteroseptal MI, which we most of the time think. So next, this is the poor progression of R wave. You see in V1 to V3, the R wave is at the same. Here, R wave is progressively increasing. Next, duration of QRS complex. So in the abnormalities of QRS complex, first is the voltage, second one is duration. So its duration can be prolonged, which is more than, if it is more than 3 small scale, we say it abnormal. So what are the causes? One are the right bundle branch block, left bundle branch block, pacemaker. Fine. Other causes are hyperkalemia, drugs, WPW syndrome, or at times after myocardial infarction in the cases of the IVCD. Next, what happens in right bundle branch block? There is terminal R prime in V1. So there is RSR pattern in V1. So whenever you describe the bundle branch block, just see this lead. If this lead has got dominant R and QRS complex is more than 3 small scale wides, this is right bundle branch block. And if there is QS pattern and QRS is more than 3 small scale wide, it is left bundle. So this is the only lead V1 which you see and decide whether it is left bundle branch or right bundle branch. Next, so what is this? Right bundle branch block. Next, so what is this? Just go to previous one. So whenever there is right bundle branch block, there are some ST segment and T wave changes which can occur with normal right bundle branch block without ischemia. So the mechanism is, where is the dominant wave? T wave is opposite direction to that wave. So here dominant wave is distal dominant wave, terminal wave. We say terminal wave. Terminal wave is R. So ST segment is opposite in the direction of R. Here the terminal wave is S. So ST segment and T waves are opposite from this S wave. Here the terminal wave is S. So ST segment and T waves are in the opposite. This is the normal uncomplicated right bundle branch block. Next, what is this? This is again right bundle branch block. Fine. But there are some T wave changes which shouldn't be in isolated right bundle branch block. So what are those? Here you see this is the S wave. So where should be the ST segment T wave? It should be, there must be upward. The same here. So the last wave here is the S wave. So ST segment and T wave must be opposite to that, but they are not opposite to that. So this is, we call it primary STT changes. So these are due to the ischemia. So whenever you see the right bundle branch block, always watch the ST segment and T waves, whether they are normal, opposite to the last terminal deflection, or same as last terminal deflection. If they are opposite to last terminal deflection, then they are normal. If they are in the same direction with the last terminal deflection, they are abnormal and they are due to ischemia. Next. Now the characteristics of the left bundle branch block. Terminal R wave in lead 1, AVL and V6. There may be M-shaped pattern. Duration is more than 3 small squares. If it is between 2.5 to 3 small square and pattern is like bundle branch block, we call it incomplete bundle branch block. Next. So this happens because normally depolarization occurs from septum to this side and then it excites the whole of the left side. So what happened in the left bundle branch block? Excitation first occur in the right ventricle and then it goes towards left ventricle. So it means the most of the terminal or late part of the left, the excitation is from in the left heart leads. So next, this is left bundle branch block. You see, this is the, whenever there is no dominant R wave and QRS is more than 3, this is left. You might not find these changes or these changes at times in left bundle branch block, but always see this lead. Previous one. So this is isolated left bundle branch block or with some ischemia. The formula is the same. Check the terminal lead. Terminal. This is the S, so it should be upward. ST segment should be upward. If this is the S, ST segment should be upward. This is dominant is R, ST segment should be downward. So next. So what is this? This is again left bundle branch block. But what happens here? ST segment is towards the R wave. Fine. So here T wave is and ST segment is upward. It is towards the R wave. So it means this is pathological left bundle branch block. Next. So what is here? Where is the pathological T wave? AVL is marked, but here you can again see in the inferior leads. So what is this? Along with left bundle, this is the S wave, so ST segment should be like this and T wave should be upright. So here T wave ST segment is downward and T wave is inverted, so this is due to ischemia. So with left bundle and with right bundle we can diagnose ischemia when we see the primary STT changes. There is a criteria to diagnose ST elevation MI in left bundle branch block. You will read it when you see the cases of the MI. But here with non-ST elevation, even with non-ST elevation, you can diagnose when you see the STT changes are in the opposite direction. So next. One thing is the fascicular blocks. So actually what are the fascicles? Most of the time we take axis deviation and the fascicular block are the same thing. But actually they are the not. Left bundle there are two fascicles. One is left anterior fascicle, other one is left posterior fascicle. When there is fascicular block, this might be due to some ischemic process or maybe due to fibrosis or something else. But left axis deviation can occur without this ischemic process or these things, because in septum primum ASD there is also left axis deviation but not the fascicular blocks. So whenever you see the fascicular blocks, then there might be the previous or the new ischemia. So what happens in the this is the anterior fascicle, this is the posterior fascicle. What happens when this anterior fascicle is blocked? Where is the delayed impulse? Which part of the LV excites in the end? Anterior part. So which part, the part of the heart which excites in the end has dominant R wave, because in the last only that part is remaining and whole current is going towards that part. So that is having the dominant R wave. So when there is left anterior fascicular block, you find dominant R wave in AVL, and your current is diverted towards that direction. So your 2, 3 and AVF, you can see the RS pattern. Next. So this is the ECG. So what is the axis? This is left axis. See, whether this is left anterior fascicular block or not. In case of left anterior fascicular block, you additionally there should be QR pattern in AVL and somewhat poor progression of R wave in the anterior leads. Clear? Next. So the same thing, what happens in the left posterior fascicular block? What happens? This is a cause of right axis deviation. So most delayed part which is being excited in the ventricle is this is the posterior part. This part excites because there is block. So first impulse excites the lateral part and then comes here to excite this one. Clear? So what will happen? Here small r and then whole impulse comes here. So this shows a big S because impulse from here comes here and here it takes the most of the time. Where it plays most of time, the lead which is facing opposite to that shows downward deflection or large S wave. So impulse comes here and here it takes most of the time. So you see the same QR pattern which is in AVL in case of anterior fascicular block, you see in 3, 2 and AVF in case of posterior fascicular block. Next. So what is here? Axis, right axis, or you may say the extreme right axis along with RS pattern in lead AVF with along with poor progression of R wave. Here there is also right bundle branch block. So we call it bifascicular block. In right bundle branch block, there may be left axis deviation, maybe right axis deviation, or it is normal. When it is normal, it is isolated right bundle. If there is left axis deviation or right axis deviation, we call it bifascicular block. Next. So, what is here? QRS narrow, broad, posterior fascicular, and QRS are broad. So, which bundle block is there? Is it left or right?
Left.
How? In left. In left bundle branch block, dominant or late forces are where? Towards the left side. So there must be R wave or the dominant R wave in the terminal part. Follow or not? In left bundle branch block, first the right ventricle excites, then excites the left ventricle. So it means the terminal portion of QRS complex is from the terminal QRS complex is from the left ventricle. So the leads which are seeing the left side from here, they are 1 and AVL. They should be having dominant R wave. So here there is dominant R wave or dominant S wave. S wave. So this is left bundle or right bundle? Right bundle. And from V1, this is left bundle. So the ECGs which do not fit in left bundle or right bundle, we call it interventricular conduction defects. Fine. So they are due to diffuse ischemia or LV dilatation, or there are the multiple causes. Here, this is not pure left bundle, not pure. But if there is QR, then we call it, because the terminal portions are towards the left side, so there is dominant R wave, this is left bundle branch block. Here, the terminal portion is having S wave. So this is not following the right bundle, not following the left bundle, this is the interventricular conduction defects. Next. So what is this? This is clear. Bifascicular block. Right underline block along with left axis deviation or left anterior hand block. Next. So what is this? This is right bundle, left axis with PR prolongation. This is trifascicular block. So whenever you see a bundle branch block, then go and see the other changes which might be there. One,
So sometimes there is a confusion between left anterior and left posterior fascicular block.
we have discussed already actually.
Echo.
Acha. So whenever you see the right bundle branch block, first see STD changes, whether they are primary or they are secondary, and then see whether there is additional axis deviation or fascicular blocks or the PR prolongation. So whenever you see the bundle branch block, don't call it isolated until you have cleared or you have seen all these things. Next. So what is this? So you can call it IVCD, but there are a lot of causes of broad QRS complexes with in the range of normal heart rate. So here you can call it VT? No. So what are the important things here? Broad complexes, they are not following the typical bundle branch pattern. Why not following? This is left bundle pattern. This is not left bundle pattern. So this is broad QRS complex. We need to find out the cause, which might be metabolic cause, which might be some drugs, which might be some old ischemic process or like that. So from here there is another finding from which you might find this what might be the cause.
QT mildly.
There is peaked T wave. Peak T wave. So this occurs in hyperkalemia. Good. Next. So what is this?
Hyperkalemia.
Again. So one other thing is important which I am going to tell you over here is when QRS complex is more than 5 small scale broad, it is not isolated VT or isolated rhythm. It must be due to some metabolic cause. So first rule out the metabolic cause when QRS is more than 5 small scale broad. When you see the patients having the tachycardia and QRS is 5 small scale broad, first rule out metabolic cause. And the important metabolic causes are, one is hyperkalemia, other is acidosis. So correct hyperkalemia, give soda bicarb and give calcium gluconate, changes becomes reverted. So in this case, if you give Cordron to the patient, if you diagnose this VT, what will happen? Patient collapses. So whenever you see QRS complex broad than 5 small scales, first rule out metabolic cause before giving anything. And in metabolic cause, give soda bicarb and calcium gluconate. Fine. So if you give this patient calcium gluconate and also the soda bicarb, patient won't die. But if you give this patient Cordron or shock, patient must die. Next. This is the same thing. QRS is more than 5 small scale, and this is tachycardia. Before diagnosing this ventricular tachycardia, rule out metabolic cause. Next. Now the Q wave. So we have discussed in QRS complex, one is the duration and voltage of QRS complex. Next important thing is the Q wave. So small Q waves are normal in most of leads. Deeper Q waves more than 2 mm may be seen in the leads 3 and AVR as a normal variant. Under normal circumstances, Q waves are not seen in the right sidedly. So if you see the Q wave from V1 to V3, this might be due to old MI, because in lead V1 to V3 you see the small R wave in normal circumstances. Pathological Q waves are considered pathological if more than 1 millimeter or 1 small square wide, more than 2 small square deep, and more than 25% of depth of the QRS complexes. And if they are seen from lead V1 to V3, they are called pathological Q waves. Next. So what is this?
Pathological Q.
These are the pathological Q waves in which lead?
Inferior.
In inferior leads, 2, 3 and inferior, along the ST elevation. Next. ST segment. So from where to measure the ST segment? This is actually at times there is a question. So ST segment elevation is measured at the J point if your reference is PR segment, and 0.06 to 0.8 second means 1 to 2 small square if your segment is, if TP segment is your reference point. Next. Next. So this is the ST segment elevation. So these are the shapes which you can see in ischemia, in myocardial infarction. So they are, most of the time they are convex upwards. Fine. So here this is also convex upward. We'll discuss later. Next. So this is the morphology of the ST elevation. Concave shape of ST elevation occurs in non-MI causes. In MI causes usually demonstrate the convex or straight. So how can you measure? Just tip of T wave to your J point. Just draw a line. If this is above the line or at the line, this is convex, and if it is below the line, this is concave. So concave occurs in non ischemic causes. Next. So there is another thing which we call it benign early repolarization. This term most of the time we use in the emergencies of what actually the benign early repolarization is. So in this case there is ST elevation, but it is concave shape. There is notching of J point. Most of the time it is seen in lead V4, and there is concave shape ST segment. Next. Here you can see that. This is V4, there is notching, and the ST segment is concave shape. Next. So what is this? Concave shape ST elevation. So this is this might be the benign early repolarization.
PR segment.
Yes, this PR segment is elevated, and there is no notching. So now, up till now, there are we have discussed three types of ST elevation. One, ischemic. Second, benign early repolarization, and third one is due to pericarditis. So, next. So this is due to pericarditis. Fine. So how this is due to pericarditis? There is how we can diagnose PR depression with reference to TP segment. This is the TP segment. So there is ST elevation, PR elevation in lead AVR. So next. So now we can easily differentiate ischemic ST elevation from non-ischemic. But how to differentiate pericarditis from benign early repolarization? STT ratio. Good. So both demonstrate the initial concavity of upsloping ST segment and T waves, PR depression in pericarditis, but not in benign early repolarization. So the formula we use is the ST over T ratio. If ST over T ratio is more than 0.25, this is pericarditis. If it is less than 0.25, benign early repolarization. Next. So this is the ratio, how we can calculate it. Here, this is the ST segment. This is the isoelectric line. So ST segment is one small square. T wave is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the ratio is 1 by 5 is 0.2. So this is less than 0.25. So this is early repolarization. And so here ST segment is 2 and T wave 1, 2, 3, 4 or 3. So this is more than 0.25. So this is pericarditis. Or you can remember this, the pericarditis is a myocardial or ST elevation disease. So in this case, the ratio would be more than 0.25. Next. So there's another cause of ST elevation. So what is this? So this is the Brugada. This is, you can see this is right bundle branch pattern, but there is ST segment is cove. So we call it Brugada syndrome. Next. So what is this?
This is elevation in
There's ST elevation in inferior leads and ST depression in the anterior leads along with R wave in V1. So this is infraposterior MI. Good. Next. So what is this?
This is interceptors.
This is anterior wall MI along with right bundle branch block. Good. Next. So we have discussed first about the ST elevation. So we have discussed that there are three types, and now the ST depression. So ST depression can be upsloping, downsloping, and horizontal. But the T wave in all these cases is upright. So if the T wave is inversion, that is a separate category which may occur in the cases of the hypertrophy along with downsloping ST depression. So next. So what is this? Infraposterior MI with horizontal ST depression. Next. What is this? This is upsloping ST depression along with upright T wave. So there is a separate category. We call it De Winter sign. So this is impending anterior wall MI. So this is equivalent to anterior wall. So whenever you see the upsloping ST depression along with upright T wave, this is anterior wall MI. Yes, if you wait some time, it becomes ST elevation. So you have time, because the early you thrombolize, the complete resolution will occur. So in this case, you directly send this patient to cath lab at this level. But if you want to thrombolize, meanwhile when you prepare the things, ST elevation will occur in these ECGs. So what is this?
Horizontal ST segment.
This is horizontal. Downsloping ST depression along with T wave inversion. This happens in hypertrophy. So here you see there is V1 which is more than 7 along with downsloping ST depression T wave. So these are the repolarization changes which occur with in cases of hypertrophy. Next. Now about the T waves. So T wave is the ventricular repolarization wave. Normally it is upright, less than 5 small scales in limb and less than 10 small scales in chest leads, may be inverted in AVR and variable in these leads. Variable means normally may be inverted in these leads. Next, but not previous one, but normally they are not inverted in these leads. Normally, so if you see the T wave inverted in these leads, it means this is not normal. It may be inverted in those leads. Normally may be inverted in these leads. Next, so T wave abnormalities are peak, hyperacute, inverted, biphasic, Campbell-Ham pattern. So these are the T wave abnormalities which we might see when we read the ECG. Next. So what is this?
Inverted.
They are symmetrical, inverted in the leads. So this is due to ischemia. Good. Next. So what about the T waves? They are the asymmetrical, downsloping ST segment. One is shallower, other is upright. So what is this? LVH, LV strain pattern. So here you can also see the in LVH poor progression of RP. Next, what is this? So when you see the deep, broad T wave inversion along with prolonged QT interval, these are not due to the cardiac cause most of the time. Next. So what is this ECG shows? They are the biphasic T wave. Biphasic T wave means one component is upward, other is downward. So is there a difference in these two? So what is the difference? Here the first component is upward and second is downward, and here first is downward and second is upward. So this ECG, if you see this kind of T wave, this occurs in ischemia, and this type of T wave in hypokalemia or metabolic cause. So whenever you see this wave, this is due to ischemia, and this is not due to ischemia, this is due to hypokalemia. Next. So here this is biphasic wave in which the first component is positive, second is negative. We call it type 1 valence. So what is the important if you see this patient? And another important thing is there is no Q wave. So if there is Q wave, this is not valence. This is the resolution process of MI. So what is the difference between this and resolution process of MI? Because if patient comes to you with this type of ECG, it means he is going to have MI in next few days if you won't treat this patient. So whenever you see this patient, immediately try to revascularize. Immediately means not with after 7 days, before 7 days. Next. So this is valence type B. So is there importance? Is there some difference in the significance of valence type A or valence type B? There is not much difference. So if you see this kind of ECG, or if you see that kind of ECG with the presence of R waves, revascularize the patient. Next.
इसको cerebral से कैसे differentiate?
Backward. पीछे चला पीछे. Oh, that was broad based and markedly deep. In next is another issue.
QT भी interval prolonged.
Yes, QT is prolonged over there. QT might be prolonged over here in this, but so next. Now the U wave. Most of the time they are not visible, but the U waves are normally goes in the same direction as the T wave. U wave size is inversely proportional to the heart rate. U wave grows bigger as the heart rate slows down. U waves generally become visible when the heart rate falls below 65. The voltage of U wave is normally less than 25% of T wave voltage. Disproportionately large U waves are abnormal. So maximum normal amplitude of U wave is 1 to 2 millimeter. Next. So what is this? This is in the hypokalemia, T wave becomes flattened and U wave become prominent. Next. So what is this? Camel hump. At times when there is tachycardia, you see the T wave which is like the camel hump. It means this is not the isolated T wave. There is something else present in the T wave, which might be U wave, might be P wave. So whenever there is camel hump, just try to find out what the other wave is there and then diagnose it. Next. Next is the QT interval. This is also an important topic. Normal QT segment is 440 to 460 or 480. Here you see that the long QT interval, male more than 470, female more than 480. We call it markedly prolonged QR if it is more than 500, and we call the QR segment
320.
is less than 320 milliseconds. Next. So what is this? Short QT. Next. So what is this? Long QT. And U wave is there or not? Hypokalemia. So when there is U wave, should we count U wave in the QT segment or not? Depends. Next. So this is we have already discussed about the very long. Just remember, if it is more than 500, it is very long. Next. QT interval should be measured in either lead 2 or B 5 6. Several successive beats should be measured with the maximum interval taken. जो उनमें सबसे ज़्यादा आ रहा है वो आपने उसको काउंट करना है. The large U waves more than 1 millimeter that are fused to the T waves should be included in the measurement. Smaller U waves and those that are separate from the T waves should be excluded. The maximum slope intercepts method is used to define the end of T wave. Next. So this is from where to where we measure QT. So if the U wave is separate, then just draw a line and this is the end of QT interval. From here, start from this, and this is a separate small one, so we not include in this. This is the intersection. But in that case, we include this one. So this is the way to calculate the QT interval. Next. So 16-year-old female with anorexia and vomiting. What is this? Hypokalemia, prolonged QT interval with the prominent U waves. Next. So here, this is the flat E wave and this is the prominent U wave. Next. What is this? This is the long QT interval. You see, this is the camel hump there, and this is the QT interval is prolonged. So when this is camel hump, just see whether this is P wave or this is U wave. So here in this case, this is the P wave. Next. So what is this? Osborne waves or short QT. Next. What is this? Benign early repolarization from the lead V4, but from the lead V6. No, we lead V6. If you measure the ST-T ratio, so this is. It means this patient of having benign early repolarization developed pericarditis. So this is the both. Next. This is ischemia. This is hypokalemia. Good. Next. Cause of syncope? Long QT interval. Good. Next. What is this?
Short QT.
No. This is actually the review of the first lecture. the leads are placed upward. So when you place the V1, V2 and V3 upward, there is poor progression and you don't see the development of the R wave. So always place the lead at a proper position. Here V2 is placed upward, this is like this, incomplete RVV pattern, and in this case when you place at normal position, it becomes normal. Next. What is this? Lead reversal. So this is not the inferior wall MI. This is
Lead reversal.
lead reversal because P waves are inverted over here. Next. What is this? So I give you a story, brief story. This patient comes with the chest pain and the first ECG was done at this level. So after 1 hour, some PGR which was sitting in the emergency asked the patient to do the second ECG. And he did his second ECG and this was like this. So what is this? This is inverted P wave. This is the lead reversal. So second time the technician did the lower limb lead reversal. So this is not the ischemia. So every time when you see the ECG, just try to find out whether this is not, because in one lead, if the P wave is positive 1 hour back, how it can be negative after 1 hour? So P wave shouldn't be negative after 1 hour. So if you see P wave is positive in the previous, so how it is negative in this ECG after 1 hour? So this is not ischemia. Next. What is this? P pulmonale along with long QT interval. Next. This, what is this? This is a long QT interval. QT, if it is more than half of this, this is long QT. Next. So this is the end of the today's lecture.